Welcome to our doorway stretch series. This is an upper body series meant to loosen up the shoulders, back, a little bit of the neck, and the pec area. We're going to start out with a light warm-up. That warm-up is going to start out with just gentle arm swings. We'll be doing this for roughly 20 seconds. We don't want to overexert ourselves and go into pain, but we want to activate these muscles and get them warmed up for a good stretch. After we finish our 20 seconds, we're going to now start doing alternating arm circles. You can do these both at the same time, or you can do each arm individually. Again, we want to do 20 seconds for each arm, so just keep count on your own. If you want to go longer, again, that's not a big deal. This is meant as a warm-up. Again, this is a warm-up, so go for as long as you need until you feel ready for a good stretch. Now, once we finish our arm circles, we'll go into alternating arm swings. Now that we've already warmed up our shoulders a little bit, this is a little bit more of a forceful exercise. We're going to let our arm gently swing up, and then if you'd like, just do a nice forceful downstroke. This just helps, again, get some of these back muscles warmed up, get some of the accelerator muscles warmed up, some of the decelerator muscles. Again, as we finish 20 seconds here, or until you feel nice and warm, we'll start our first stretch. Since this is the doorway stretch series, we recommend that you do this in a doorway or the corner of a wall. The first position will be the 12 o'clock position, and we're going to be coming up with our arm going directly to our side and leaning against. Now we can bend at the elbow, grabbing the back of our neck, and this will typically be more of a tricep stretch. So we want to elongate the tricep up the wall, trying to get our elbow and body flat. Now we're going to try to flatten ourselves out, getting a nice lateral stretch along with the tricep. Again, the more advanced move is to bend the elbow and grab the head, but if you'd like to keep a straight arm, that's absolutely fine. This is the 12 o'clock position. The doorway stretches are also known as the clock stretches. Now, using the right arm, again, you can do this with both arms at the same time or one at a time, depending on where you are. We're going to go to the 1 o'clock position. So you want to imagine as if you're on a clock and you're moving the arm from 12 right to the 1 o'clock position. So now we're going to have the arm anchored above. This is a high pec stretch. We don't want to lean our entire body weight forward. We want to keep a nice firm core. We want to make sure our arm is externally rotating here or moving away from the horizontal line. And we want to feel a deep stretch coming to the upper pec. It's important that we keep our arm here in an elevated position. We want this as close as we can to the 1 o'clock position. And we want to make sure this arm is well above the shoulder line. We're going to hold this stretch for 20 seconds. And we're going to go down now to the 2 o'clock position. Again, as we go through the stretch, you want to think about a clock. And you want to think about the positioning as if where it would lay on a clock. Again, you don't have to be perfect with this, but we are still above the shoulder line. We're not at a typical 3 o'clock position. We're sitting still above the shoulder line, not quite perpendicular to the body. We're going to hold this for 20 seconds. Again, we don't want to bob during this. We don't want to pulsate, or we don't want to slide back and forth. We want to hold a nice gentle stretch and keep it consistent the entire time. Now as we finish out 20 seconds, we're going to go to the 3 o'clock position, and this will be perpendicular to the body. We should have a nice 90-degree angle. Again, you can do these single or you can do these at the same time. If you're doing these at the same time, you want to make sure you feel an even stretch on both sides. If not, you may want to isolate each arm evenly. We'll be holding here for 20 seconds. Again, this stretch shouldn't feel pain. It should be a nice, easy stretch that you're able to hold. While we stretch, we want to make sure we're breathing through the nose, slowing our breaths to staying nice and controlled. We want to make sure we're breathing through the nose, keeping nice, controlled breaths, slowly relaxing our body. Again, as we finish 20 seconds, next we'll be coming to the 4 o'clock position. Underneath the perpendicular position, but not quite low enough to our 5. Again, if you can do both arms at the same time here, that's great. If not, you may want to do a single arm. So again, the hand will be back behind the body, but we're not looking to twist or try to increase our stretch through pain, we want to keep a nice, easy stretch, loosening up our shoulders. Again, if you'd like to get a more intense stretch, you can always do more sets, or you can just take more time and go a little bit deeper in the stretch. Now moving on to our 5 o'clock position. This is going to be a nice low stretch, bringing it again a little bit through the pec, mostly in the anterior shoulder. And again, if you can do both sides at the same time, that's great. But if not, you can isolate each arm. Again, the hand should be behind the body, but we're not looking to twist our body or try to turn our core to increase this stretch. We want to keep it nice and isolated to just the pec. And we're going to go directly into the 7 o'clock position. This means our arm is now going to be across the body, and we're going to have to isolate each arm. We can't do both at the same time. Now, right in this position, notice how the body is still trying to bring both shoulders straight ahead, but the arm is across, and notice how it's latched on or holding the frame. You want to have a position here where you may be able to hold on to something, because it gives you the ability to pull the opposite direction and get a nice stretch on the posterior shoulder here. Now you should feel this in your posterior shoulder. There should not be any pinching in the front of the shoulder. And if you do feel pinching, you should stop immediately. If for any reason you feel pain, readjust the position and try to find it again. If you have trouble getting into the position without pain, you may want to reach out to a physician. Again, while in this position, we're not bobbing back and forth, we're not leaning, we're just having a nice, good, gentle stretch, getting a nice pull across the body. As we finish 20 seconds, we'll be adjusting from the 7 o'clock position and going into the 8 o'clock position. Now again, this isn't quite a 90-degree angle, but you're still going to be at a slight angle. You're still going to feel this in the posterior shoulder, and you should feel it moving to a slightly different location than you are before. There's a number of muscles in the rotator cuff, also underneath the scapula, and moving into the front of the pec, and all of these different areas help the shoulder do movements throughout its range of motion. We want to make sure that we're doing slightly different positions to try to isolate each individual muscle to work on the different areas. Again, you may find that some of these stretches, you find them a little tighter than other areas. There's no reason why you wouldn't need to. If you find that some of these areas are tighter than the other, you can spend more time loosening them up. Again, we can hold for longer than 20 seconds, or we can just increase reps. Now, since this is stretching, we can just enjoy doing multiple reps and trying to get a nice, loose stretch throughout the day. Again, just be mindful that when it comes to flexibility, you're not going to get increasing gains by doing it more times in a single day rather than more consecutive days in a row. So doing it 3 times a day, once a week, will not be as effective as doing it 5 times a week, once a day. Now moving into our 9 o'clock position, you see we're going directly across the body. This one is the most likely to feel pinching. You want to make sure that you're feeling a stretch going across the back of the shoulder and no pinching in the front of the shoulder. Again, if you're having any pain in this position, you should stop immediately. The main reason why we always stretch the front of the shoulder first is to loosen up those muscles before we then come across the body and possibly pinch those areas. You also may want to check your shoulder alignment and make sure that you're not pushing your shoulder straight across your body. Notice the shoulder is still tucked back in a good position as you do this stretch. Notice that as you do this stretch, the shoulder is not coming all the way across the body. It's still staying in a good position as we come across. Now, as we move across to our 10 o'clock position, we're going to be reaching above the shoulder line and across the body. This is going to be a stretch that's still in the posterior shoulder, but it may feel more like it's down into the armpit and going down the side of the back. Again, all of these posterior stretches are very hard to do both at the same time, so you will have to isolate each arm in order to get a proper stretch. We'll be holding these for 20 seconds, but again, if you'd like to take more time, by all means, take as much time as you need. Remember, as you alternate sides, we're not trying to force ourselves into pain. These are some of the most commonly tight muscles. They're either not used properly due to slouching and improper posture, or they're overused from whatever kind of work that you may have using your shoulders every day. It's important that we take care of our shoulders so we can keep and maintain a proper range of motion. Many of you may feel that if you do our warm-up after you finish, you'll notice that you feel much more limber and you're able to give a much greater range of motion. Now, finishing our 10 o'clock position, we'll go into our final position, which is 11 o'clock. This is going a very high posterior stretch here. Notice how we can arch. It's not quite a 12 o'clock stretch, but it's a very high posterior. It's important that you find a positioning that works best for you. But as you notice, in all of these posterior stretches, we will be trying to grab on to the frame or grabbing onto a corner of a wall. It's not as simple as just reaching over and having the hand alignment. You want to have something to hold on to so you can use your body weight to leverage this stretch very well. Now again, as you finish both sides here, this is a great time to redo some of our arm swings, our arm circles, and some of our alternating swings so you can really feel how these stretches have impacted your direct range of motion. Unless you had a fantastic range of motion to start with, most people will find that they feel much looser now that they've loosened up. Now our next stretch is going to show you how to do external rotation in two ways. We'll show 90 degrees against the doorway right here. And notice how this is at shoulder height. So after we get into this position, we're actually going to lean forward and bend at our hips, turning into this position. Now for some people, they'll feel a great stretch here. This is an external rotation stretch that's in a nice open position that's not going to be pinching anything. This is a slightly different stretch than our 12 o'clock position because the arm is not going straight up. And in the 12 o'clock position, we were focusing more on a tricep, while this is more stretching out our internal rotators. Now again, if you don't feel like you're getting a great enough stretch in this position, the second way to do it is our second position. We'll be doing a 90-90 up the hip. You may be able to do both arms at the same time, but if not, we're going to isolate the hand against the wall, and then now we'll be turning our body to get a greater range of motion. Now remember, we're not trying to go into pain, and notice that as we do this stretch, we're trying to keep this elbow locked into the side of our body in order to isolate that external rotation here. This stretch can also be done with a stick outside of a doorway. Now this next stretch is called the bow stretch. That's because your body will look like a bow, as in a bow and arrow, and you'll be trying to keep your feet as close to the wall as you can while anchoring in around our 10 to 11 o'clock position. Again, for this position, you'll need to be holding on to the door frame or holding on to the corner of a wall, and you're going to allow your hips to come out and bow your body so you get a nice lateral stretch on your entire side. This will touch on the obliques, the quadratus lumborum, and a few other different areas. Some may feel this going all the way down to their IT band and their knee. Now our next stretch is going to be a twist in the core to help get, again, the posterior back. We're going to be facing forward and twisting in the opposite direction with our arms, reaching over, trying to get really, for the first time, a twisting in our core and activation here. We should be feeling a stretch in our mid-back, possibly going down to our lower back. Again, we're going to be standing one way and then reaching in the opposite direction to try to get a nice intense stretch. Now, we don't want to feel pain as we do this. We just want to feel a nice, gentle stretch. If for any reason you feel pain, stop immediately. Our last stretch is going to be for the calf. Since this is a doorway series, we're doing every stretch that you can do functionally in a doorway. This is a great stretch for anyone that can get their foot as close as they can to the doorway, and it's going to be a nice calf stretch. Now this is a stretch in the left calf as we're showing. The toes are up and rounded against the doorway, and then we're leaning forward into this stretch. We'll be holding this stretch for 20 seconds and holding it on each side. If you feel like you'd like to feel this stretch a little bit lower, you can bend the knee and you can feel it go down to the Achilles. This will be lower than the calf and just underneath, closer to behind your heel. Both of these are great stretches for the lower body that can be easily done in the doorway. that are often neglected. Now, our bonus stretch we'll be doing on this series is one that's not too common to be able to do in a doorway, but if you're able to, this is a hanging stretch. This is a great stretch to do from a bar or possibly the edge of a stair, depending on wherever you are. Sometimes there's a lip in the doorway that allows you to, but if there's anything that you can hang on to, this allows you to hang on. You want to relax the rest of your body and let just your arms hold up your body weight. For many people, this will loosen up the shoulders and help allow the body to do something that it's meant to do and just support itself completely in the upper body. This is a normal stretch to do to help loosen up the shoulders. And as we hold this stretch in our upper body, we're going to loosen our lower body and allow our shoulders to support our entire body weight. You may feel a tight stretch underneath the underarm, possibly going into the back, possibly going down the sides.